knowing Dom, it was been an interesting experience. I never thought that I would move from being a CTO of having 300 staff. So there was 3 of us. We did this initial crazy startup. How can we make dial-up better? Was not the best idea, but somehow we had 4.5 million clients using us, 300 staff around the world. We went public. I wasn't getting any sleep. I decided to do it again for some reason. Did a startup, tried to take it public, succeeded. And then at that point, I was about to get a divorce because my wife had said, if the phone rings at 3 a.m. again and you answer it and you go straight back to sleep, I stay awake for the rest of the night. This isn't working. So my wife and I had a long discussion and we gave it up. We both gave up our jobs and we said, could we do something new? And I decided to go back to university for some reason. And I decided to get a master's in renewable energy. And everybody thought, oh, that's going to be what my job is going to be. And I was introduced to something halfway through my university degree called crowdsourcing, or open innovation in different ways. And this was a way of using the power of the crowd to solve problems. Now, it sounds quite wishy-washy, or how can you motivate people to solve problems? But if you motivate people the right way, people will participate. People will engage with the problem. So I worked for a couple of other consultancies and then decided that I could do it better myself, and I didn't want to have another boss. So we have designed, as a company, everything from £5,000 prize monies to £50 million prize monies. What can you do? What can you motivate people with money? Now, my experience has been, and I'll get to it during presentation, money's not the only motivator. And we've designed about 450 of these innovation competition programs, prizes, whatever you want to call them, over the last few years. So this is a process that has many different names because there are cultural differences around the world, how you deal with it. But they're all about results-based finance, focus, programs. But they're called different things around the world in different ways. Let's make it more interesting, though. This is all about how you set an ambitious goal, but you don't say how it's going to be achieved or who should it be achieved. Now, this is done both within businesses and to the whole crowd, the whole global community. But you can do it within your business as well. It's just sometimes your business doesn't have the right people within it to solve all the problems you have. Now, just to give a bit of history, this has been around for quite a long time. 200 BC, hero's crown. He wanted to know how much gold was in his crown. Didn't want to weld it down. Let's dunk it in some water, work out how much it weighs. Let's work out that. Then we've had the Longitude Act, which was the first big one that the British government did quite a long time ago, 200 plus years. And that was to how to determine longitude. Well, this is where people predetermine who's going to win. So everybody decided for the winner of that competition was going to be somebody who does it by stars. And then a crazy clockmaker decided that he had a better way of using time to determine longitude. It took him 80 years and an act of parliament for him to win the competition because the people who decided the rules kept on changing it to make it sure that the people who they thought should win actually should win. And he had to keep on challenging it. So thinking about how you design your programs is actually really key, and try not to predetermine who should be the winner is really key with this whole process. We now have cans because of it. Canning came out of a competition, great exhibition, designing it, or take prize. Let's see who the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. All about driven by money. Then in the 2000s, this became a real process that everybody would accept. We had the Millennium Prize for Mathematics. We had Prize for Life. Then the first big data competition, which I was involved in, which was the Netflix Prize. How can we determine what you would watch next on your TV screens? How can we predict what you're doing? And could we persuade people who have no idea about it by just giving them data? Could they make an algorithm better? $1 million prize? Somebody won it. In the last 5 minutes that the competition was run, the equation was changed 600 times, where people were tweaking it right up to the end. Motivating people to participate in this kind of thing gets people engaged. Nobody cared about what it was doing. It's all about the data. E-cars, electric cars, self-drive cars, DARPA Network Challenge. They ran it in 2009. US government ran a competition to say, let's have a self-drive car. And can it be electrically powered? Nobody completed the challenge. It had to do a 2-kilometer circuit. Nobody could get it done. Now, they're on the road. A number of people here are driving Teslas today because of that initial competition. Could you design a car by the crowd? Fiat Mio. Yeah, nobody wanted it, but it was decided by a crowd. And the main reason why nobody wanted it is because actually nobody could work out how to use the door handle. Now it's a door handle that actually everybody does accept, but it was a press button door handle, and nobody wanted that in the end. So this is all about motivation at the very part. When you think about trying to solve a problem, do you want to design something new? I want a new light bulb, or I want a new process, or I want a new widget. Instead of you designing it, how can you go to a community to help solve that? You'll have to motivate them to do it. Motivation is always hard because everybody here has a different set of drivers. Some of you are driven by money. Some of you are driven by wanting to have exposure. Some of you are really interested in just wanting to help people because you want to help people. And some people just want to do it because they want to have fun. How do I trigger each one of you to still participate in something? It takes experience, and I don't get it right every time. Also have to worry about privacy. People don't want to share some information. You don't want to share your secret source, but you need to give us enough information to go, I know enough about how to solve this problem, but I can still do it. How do you manage the IP? And then machine learning. This is where it's become really interesting in that targeting the right people who think you could be, who you think possibly could solve your problem, but actually don't know about the problem, is where the future has been. How can we do it with the people who maybe at the moment are a printer, but they have a hobby in designing something in a different way, or they build something in their past time? They could be the person that solves these problems. So, the key ones that we work on mainly is personal satisfaction, peer recognition, having the time to address the problem, cash, and engagement. Now, I'm just going to move to the other side of the stage because I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable on that side of the stage. Sorry. When you look at people in their 20s, it's all about, so I want to target a 20 to 25-year-old man. I'm always going to target him with money. That's going to be the main motivator to work on. If I want to target a 20 to 25-year-old young woman who has a degree, I'm not going to use money. Money's not the primary motivator. They're more interested in actually having to help work with the community. How can you work through each of these different ways to make people engage with the problem? Now, this is also with your staff. And just to be clear, your staff are going through this when they look at their salaries as well. These are also the motivators they're looking through when you're getting anybody to do anything. Have they got this? The time to address the problem is the time they want to spend working for you. Be that on a project that only takes 1 hour or a project that takes them 5 days a week. Let's see if I can hold on that slide. What we found to motivate people to it, we broke it down into 9 particular ways. When we're looking at particular areas of running these competitions, these challenges, and why people do it. Now, people do it for a number of different reasons. Raising awareness is really key. If you want to solve a problem, I want to do drone deliveries of medicines to Rwanda and DRC. If anybody had asked anybody 2 or 3 years ago, nobody would have been really that interested in it. Now, the majority of medicines across Africa are being delivered by drones because of COVID. But 2 to 3 years ago, nobody considered that. But the World Bank, the UK government, and a number of other funders decided to risk it. They had decided, can we do it beyond an initial pilot program? Can we do something bigger? Can we raise awareness of what drones capably can do? That meant I had to spend 4 months in Rwanda on a beach, flying drones, crashing them, destroying them, rebuilding them, working with teams from around the world. But in the end, every single company that participated, the 10 companies that participated, All 10 of them are now delivering and have multi-million-dollar contracts to deliver aid around the world. So it can motivate people to participate. I don't know if it's the only way that you can motivate to participating, but getting people to compete against each other, especially businesses, is really key. But community is also really important. Look at sanitation in Ghana. And I'm going to give some examples of projects that I've been working on. So, sanitation in Ghana. The World Bank spent $500 million trying to solve sanitation in Ghana over a course of a 15-year period. How many toilets were actually built because of that? About 500. That's quite an expensive per toilet base because they decided to go down the infrastructure route. But culturally, in Ghana, people don't want to have toilets in their homes. Culturally, it's not an acceptable practice. Socially, in terms of depending on the tribe you're from, you may actually want to go to the beach to go to the toilet. And we've seen it where people will drive up in their Mercedes-Benz with them and their kids. They will go to the beach, they will go to the toilet, they'll get in the back to the Mercedes-Benz, and they will go to school or to their work. Because culturally, that's the acceptable way of disposing of their waste. Why would they want to then have a toilet in their house? Because culturally, that's dirty. How do we manage that? How do you engage with people to allow that to happen? Do you go down the route of saying, okay, community toilets, but then you charge people and you charge poor people to have a community toilet? Is this a way of solving the problem? Is infrastructure the best way? Well, actually, no. The best way is actually to have a toilet that people want to care for. Community toilets. Can you bring the community to want to have a toilet together that they will share with their neighbours, that they will look after? Can you make it cost effective? Can you make it into something that's sustainable? Can you make it that way? Yes, you can, but we didn't think about it. Nobody had designed a toilet that way to work. We had to go out and, with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we went out and they did 2 challenges. One where Bill did his whole, let's do a toilet, a zero water toilet that is so hugely complicated and requires a truck to do. Or can we do a composting toilet that actually people can service themselves? Okay, the technical toilet, there's 10 of them that have been built. There's 3,500 of the composting toilets that we've built. Some work, some don't work. This is all about how to maximize your market, how to also, can you alter policy? Can you use all of these to use challenges to do this? And we found that we can with all of these problems. So, interacting with people. People want to interact with each other. People want to be part of a community. How do you bring people together? COVID has changed that a lot. Everybody's supposed to be virtual. But actually, people want to connect with a physical person. They want to communicate with everybody. They want to share ideas. Bringing people together. So one of the ways we do this is through online hackathons, online community building, engagement. People need to share ideas. People are struggling at the moment. We ran a hackathon. We thought 50 people would turn up. 700 people turned up to the hackathon. People want to engage, especially if it's a problem that people want to solve. Also, people are interested in local problems more than international problems. If you can locally motivate them to think about it, if your staff, if you can say to them, hey, how can we do something that solves our particular problem? That's much more interesting than saying, hey, can you solve a problem for the whole business? Now, I decided that I gave my team, my crazy team, my lovely team who I've built over the past year and a half, because pre-COVID I was working for myself, now I have a team. I said, let's build a social media account. Let's build an Instagram account. Well, I gave them a year and I said, could you have 1,000 people follow us? Well, we've got nearly 13,000 people now following, looking at, and all we talk about is competitions. But the main areas that we found people were really interested in it was Indonesia, India, and Brazil. And we were like, why are people really interested? What is culturally different in those parts of the world that want people to engage with these kind of problems? Now, there is a real element of there in, especially India. It's an ex-colony. They've got a really strong entrepreneurship. But we were really surprised at Brazil, because trying to engage Spain and Portugal in these kind of problems culturally doesn't work. But for some reason, in Brazil, they've merged cultures together. They've taken entrepreneurship, they've taken Latin ingenuity, and they brought it together. They engage with these solutions and these problems all the time. Now, we don't have a lot of posts, 360 posts, post one a day. It's not a huge amount, but they gauge. We get 500 plus likes on these posts. People engage, people recruit. Now, we talked about it in different ways, and we run something called Trivia Tuesday to work it. And we decided I gave the team £20 paid advertising, everything else had to be organic. When 3,500 people engage and write an answer to a Trivia Tuesday question, we do it before we're running a competition for a client. We say, hey, are you looking at a mathematical problem? Let's run a Trivia Tuesday before we run that. It engages the crowd and starts prepping them to know on it. When you ask your staff and say, come and help us solve this problem, if they have no understanding what that problem is, how can you prep them for that problem? Now, I'm just giving you lots of examples. I've only got 20 minutes to talk through this whole problem. This is me compressing a 1-hour presentation into 20 minutes. But what I'm just trying to say is that there is different ways to engage with people and the crowd on social media. They do solve problems. The World Vision, looking at actually how you can deal with problems in nationally and internationally, but trying to make it local, trying to understand it from that point of view, trying to understand so people can actually understand that problem. So the aim of all of what I've been trying to talk to you about is how do you engage everybody? It's not always about using cash, but it's actually how active everybody can be within it. Now, you can't engage all of a community all of the time. Some people are inactive. Not all of us look at our social media all of the time. Not everybody looks at a newsletter all of the time. But how can you get it in front of enough people that they will want to engage with it and they will want to solve it? It's all about bringing people together as a community. The community is the most important thing, and allowing people to actually learn about each other and doing stuff and finding ways that they can communicate with each other and finding ways of sharing information is actually the most important key. But they have to feel empowered through this whole process. If you don't empower them to feel like they are part of the community, that you are forcing the community to not come together, that doesn't work. People need to feel like they are being empowered to be part of this process. I have a couple of corporate clients who feel they're empowering their staff. I call them staff. They actually don't. They call them teams. I don't know why, but anyway, they call them staff. It's their staff. And they say every time they log in to their website, they get prompted to have an point of engagement. They want to do it. But because it's a forced point of engagement, nobody reads the information. We ran the competition where we said, if you click on this button, there is a chance of you getting an extra day's holiday. Everybody gets prompted every time they log into their intranet. Only 1% of people clicked on the thing. How many people ignored it and just went through to something more? Because it was forced, because the point of engagement was forced, people didn't feel like they were empowered to engage it. They didn't feel like they had a choice. How can you give people a choice to engage with these kind of problems? Which then empowers them to feel like they can be part of the process. How can you bring that all together? Which then they feel enabled to engage with all of these processes. Now, one of the benefits of social media is being able to target a youthful group. We've got 50% on Instagram, 18 to 24s. When we look at all of our other communities, they're all 50-something white men who are interested in these kind of problems. Those aren't interesting to our clients anymore. They want to go after it. And also, higher level engagement of females, Africa and Asia. This is what social media allows you to engage with, but it's getting the content right for them in terms of making it interesting. Don't just put out the same stuff you would put out on LinkedIn or anything like that. You need to have something that's interesting. You need to change the concept. You need to change the content. You need to change the wording. Everything we do is customized now. We can't presume that the same stuff that we're doing on our LinkedIn networks works on our global crowd networks. I'm going to stop at that point in case anybody's got any questions. I've tried to give you an idea of what the crowd can do, what you can use for the power of the crowd. The majority of what these are used for is solving problems within businesses or external. Most corporates are doing it. We have engineering companies who are saying, how can we find new ways of looking at underground wiring. How can you detect that? The person who solved the underwiring detection problem was not an engineer. It was a chemical scientist who had used a different spectral camera to determine when her experiments were ready by looking at the heat from that thing. And she was looking at it across a room because she needed to be in a very sealed environment. The people who solve the problem aren't the people who you think. I would have never have thought to have connected to a chemical scientist who wanted to monitor her experiments being the person that solved that. She won $50,000 just for coming up with the idea. No IP because the camera already exists. But nobody had ever thought about that as a solution problem. This is what the power of the crowd can give you. The power of the crowd can also solve problems around the world. And that is what we do as an organization. So thank you for your time.